Welcome, everyone. This is Beyond the Strange. I am your host, Dave C. Thank you all for being here on Google Hangouts or YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at Strange Days 2015. The hashtag is actually the hashtag is now hashtag Be Strange. There's also a hashtag Beyond the Strange Facebook. Oh my gosh, what was that? I think we're having an earthquake. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, what's up, guys? I unmuted him.
He hasn't unmuted himself.
I'm here.
There he is. There he is. What's up?
Hey guys, how you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good.
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 Pretty good. So, anyways, like I was saying, there is a Strange Beyond the Strange Facebook page. We are also on Google Plus under Beyond the Strange at gmail.com. Still working on that web page. It should be up here pretty soon. And finally, you can join the show with your Gmail account on Skype. I don't know, you can do it with Skype. You can call in on Skype. The ID is Strange Days 2015. Gentlemen, show is yours. What's going on?
Good day so far. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show tonight, Dave. I really appreciate it. You too, Brian. It's I guess tonight we're going to be talking about a little bit of everything. A little bit of magic, a little bit of demonology, a little bit of Bigfoot. And my partner in crime, Rick, knows just about everything in all those categories as well. So we should have a pretty good show. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Or if you want to come in on the, please call in on Skype.
Yep, Skype is Strange Days 2015. And Rick, what exactly is the background that you have in as far as ghosts and ghost encounters? Wow. So that's like the area, like Fresno, Merced, going up 99 in between 5, that area. Yeah, that's all totally Northern California. I know exactly where you're talking about. Les, what? Yes, yes, I am. I'm closer to the Napa side, but I'm definitely off of 80 near Sacramento, and I'm like right in the middle of everything. I can take 12, go to Lodi, head down south to San Francisco, go up north to Sacramento, Santa Rosa. I'm like right smack in the middle. Les,
My brother.
what's going on, my
Dead
brother?
air. I'm getting from a little bit from everybody right now, and it's nobody can hear anything.
Hang on, let me check it out here. Let me check it out really quick. You guys continue on.
That's strange. I was just gonna say, shout out to Rita. She just said, "Hey, gentlemen, how's it going?" Who am I missing? There you go.
But Dave,
But me.
I just got a text from Rita, and she said she can hear dead air, can't hear anyone but Dave.
Wow. What's up with that?
Ah,
Oh, that's really strange.
yeah.
Oh,
Fran is saying can't hear Rick. Listening to the live YouTube feed. So. Oh
no,
no.
actually, I think it might just be. Hang on, let me see something here.
Yeah. Well, if you were about to ask me how I got into, magic, a little bit of everything, started from a pretty young age. About 9 years old, my dad had procured in college a book on Bigfoot, and we were going through the under part of our house and clearing out books to sell in a garage sale, and I saw that book and I was just instantly fascinated. I went through that book at the age of 9, and ever since I've always just been, and then came the show In Search Of, with the Patterson Gimlin footage, and pretty much ever since I've been absolutely fascinated by the paranormal, by cryptids. In high school I got into Raymond Bucklands' practical candle burning rituals, and it's gone on from there. I'm pretty much just an armchair researcher, like a lot of us are. But I picked up
Right.
a little bit here and a little bit there. I'm by no means an expert, but I do know a lot. I know a little bit of everything.
Oh, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
That's for that's for sure. Have any of you guys had any sightings of Bigfoot? Um, Les, have you actually seen anything like that?
No, no, I have not. There are a lot of sightings in the area I'm living in right now, though. Just on YouTube, there was a picture or a video that went out not too long ago. I don't know if it was faked or not, but that was about a half an hour from where I live. They're all over the place. If you go with common knowledge now, there's about 4 different types. Um, There's the Type 1, which is the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot, and which looks more like a human being, just covered in hair and anywhere from 7 feet tall to 12 feet tall. There's a Type 2, which have very large incisors or eye teeth, almost like fangs. They have said that they look, possibly because of inbreeding, that they look a little bit abnormal in the face. The Type 3 is what they call, what people seem to think is a Neanderthal. Either that or it's the Type 4. And then the Type 4 is is very similar to what they call the orang pendek. Short, very monkey-like, but not a monkey and not like your Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot.
And also, from what I understand, the higher the number goes up, it's kind of a coincidence, the more aggressive they tend to be.
That's pretty much it for the sightings. And of course, you've got the orang pendek, you've got the Yeti, you've got the Yowie in Australia. You've got there's sightings of this. There's even sightings of them in Russia as well, and I can't remember the exact name for that one, but they have them all over the world. There's been sightings of these things. Rick, have you ever seen one?
Not seen one, but I've heard.
Rick?
Yeah, I'm here.
Am I here by myself?
No, Les.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I
hear
cannot
me?
hear Brian, and I can see Rick.
Okay.
Who's smiling right now.
I just got
do
a
not
text message.
hear Rick.
I just got a text message that they can hear
He's
me
talking,
live.
but I can't see him.
But
Okay.
yeah,
hang
I
on,
guess Les
hang on
can't
one
hear me
second,
now.
Les.
All right.
Rick, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear everybody.
Okay. Brian, are you there?
Uh-huh.
I can hear Brian.
I can hear you all.
Les, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
I can hear you fine, Dave.
Okay,
I
but you
cannot
can't
hear
anybody
Rick. The only person I cannot hear is Rick.
All right. Odd man out.
I think Les has selective hearing.
Hey, he can join the ranks of my children.
No, I heard Rick in the beginning, but I can no longer hear him now.
Okay. Les, try messing around with your settings again like we did at the beginning.
Okay. Sure.
Or maybe even go with unplugging your headphones and plugging them back in. You can try it that way.
Try that. All right. Why don't you guys take it from here? I'll mute for a second and see what I can do.
Read us all. Roll call.
Yeah.
Okay, Rick, where were you? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes, please.
I haven't seen anything, but I mean, there have been quite a few times growing up where I grew up. Heard something off in the distance. Like there was one time my folks took a friend and I camping up like around Clark's Fork and stuff like that. And there's still a little bit of snow on the ground because it was fairly early spring, and we didn't know if we were just hearing a bunch of people being idiots howling or whatever. So we kind of wrote it off as that. You can't really say, oh, I'm not going to go, like a certain TV show where you have nothing but surprised reactions on night vision cameras saying, oh, I heard something, but they never bump up the audio feed so you know what they heard.
All for the drama.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I have no way of saying, oh, yeah, it was a Sasquatch. It's either Sasquatch or it was somebody who, just chugged a bottle of schnapps. You can't really tell. And, tree knocks and stuff like that. However, this one was a trip. My dad, he lives over on Whidbey Island, which is an island a little north and west of Seattle. And he was walking out to the shed, and this is the type of area where when it's nighttime, it's nighttime. I mean, there's no street lights. It's pretty remote. About 70 to 80% of this island is forest, and especially where he's at. And I was trying to track down a motorcycle part. I forgot which one. So he was walking out to the shed, while he's on his cordless phone. And all of a sudden in the background you can hear crickets, everything, dead quiet. And we heard a howl. I heard it over the phone. And, you know, I mean, the phone was clear enough. I could hear his feet crunching in the gravel driveway. And, you know, I'm like, are you listening to Sasquatch calls? I mean, what are you doing? And he's like, no, man, I'm between my house and my shop. I'm like, no, you're screwing with me. He's like, no, I'm dead serious. And then we heard it again. And, man, the volume that I heard over the phone was incredible. I mean, it had to have been easily within a mile of his house. And it creeped him out. He's like, yeah, I'm going to look for that part later. And turned around, went right back into the house. And at first I thought he was just kind of, you know, pulling my chain, playing calls on his computer. But, you know, I heard him walk up the steps and close his front door. And it's like, oh, crap, yeah, that just happened. I mean, it was like, wow. But I mean, remote. And there have been quite a few sightings on this island. There was one north of Whidbey Island, right before the bridge that goes over to Fidalgo Island. Lots of reportings, or lots of sightings off of that island. So, I mean, I would say that's the most convincing experience I've had. I think that was the most definite, yeah, there was something. And well, sadly, it was over the phone.
Well, I know when I had mine was around 81, and it was down past Puyallup, or actually down past Olympia.
Yeah.
You know, and it was on one of the 3-day weekends, and we were camping at a waterfall, and there was nobody else around us. We were the only ones there. And, you know, it was first thing in the morning, but the one I saw, and it was a female, and I'll reiterate that again, it was a female. You could tell it was a female. Mm-hmm. We were at the bottom of the waterfall. She was at the top, actually in the center of where the water was coming down, and looking down at us, and we looked up because the sun was just coming up over the horizon, and so the sun was behind her. But she was more humanoid, more human than I would say ape type. You know what I mean? Her hair wasn't all that thick. But then again, I don't think she was a mature Bigfoot either. I mean, at most, I think she was probably about 6'5", maybe 7 foot.
Yeah.
But, you know, she was more, to me it seemed at the time that she was more of an adolescent, more of a teenager than anything else.
Wow. Did you report that to any local organizations? Or?
I was only like 10 or 11, man.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, when you're 10 or 11, you're not thinking, oh, I need to call BFRO or the Olympia Project or anything like that. You're like, okay.
yeah, you're like,
that's one hairy chick.
Well, you know, and the thing was, me and my buddy, because it was me and my buddy at the time, John, we didn't freak out. We were just kind of like standing there in stunned amazement, watching what was going on, and it seemed like the opposite was happening on the other end too. Like she was doing the exact same thing, going, "Wow, people," you know.
So it's like you guys both had that kind of like what they call the Oz factor with ufology.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know, we're both standing there just in stunned amazement. Wow, look at you! Wow, look at them! You know, it's like, oh, okay. You know, we weren't freaked out or anything. I mean, after the fact, we were excited. We still weren't freaked out, but you know, it was just one of those just trippy things.
Now, forgive me, but dude, go into agonizing detail, because I mean, like that's one of the things that we do with strange happenings investigations. We like getting all the details, and especially since you were 10. I mean, I know some of it will get a little hazy over the decades. But like, do you remember any particular smells? Do you remember any particular noises or lack of noises?
No, I mean, well, it was early in the morning, so you know, you just have your normal bird songs in the morning.
Yeah.
There wasn't any real noise other than birds chirping in the trees. You know, there were no squirrels, of course, the mouse population up there has exploded, you know, over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
But at that time there was, you know, no real squirrel noises. You know how the squirrels scamper through or drop something, you hear that off in the distance.
Yeah.
There was none of that. It was just mainly bird song, and anything else probably would have been drowned out by the sound of the waterfall, because we were just only less than 50 yards away from the waterfall. So I mean, that
So you're
noise,
fairly close.
Oh yeah, we were real close. I would say that the river that was coming off the waterfall was probably maybe 30 feet across, possibly 40. So it wasn't all that wide of a body of water. But we were a little down from the waterfall, probably about maybe 20 yards down from the actual waterfall itself. And and you know, we were just out. We were up before everybody else was, and like I said, nobody else was there camping. We were up before, because I went with my friend John. His parents and his sister were still asleep, and you know, we were just out screwing off in the morning, so we didn't wake everybody else up. And I'm going to say it was probably about 6 o'clock. About 6 a.m. And you know, we were just out down by the water, and you know, we just happened to look up. I looked up and I was like, John, tell me you're seeing what I'm seeing, you know, or something to that effect. And he looks up, and then we both just sat there quiet and watched. And she was looking down at us, and the fur from the sun shining on the hair that she had, and it wasn't it was full body hair, but it wasn't thick. It wasn't a thick mass of hair. You could see the skin through, you know, the backlight.
Okay.
And but you know, she was definitely female. And
now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And oily.
Hey guys, hang on 1 second. Les, you there?
I'm here.
I can hear Les.
I can barely hear him though.
I'm on Skype.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we got him on Skype.
Is that better?
It's a little bit better. Let me see if I can do something with your audio. Go ahead, keep going, guys.
Yeah, so, okay, what color was the hair? I mean, I know it was sunlight going through would probably change it a little bit. You can probably get more of the highlights, but I mean.
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, it was red. Let's put it that way. I'm sure it was kind of a light brown if you were to look at it in plain light, but with the backlight from the sun coming up over the horizon, it had that reddish tint to it. It was, you know. But
what state was this?
This was in Washington.
Yeah. This is between like the you said Olympia and Puyallup area, correct?
Actually, it was
Somewhere
below Puyallup. It was below Olympia, because we had passed on the way down there the night before. We had passed by the Whoops reactors. So it was down past Olympia.
You know, what time of year was this?
It was late summer, probably. What's our holiday coming up here?
Labor Day?
Yeah, it was probably Labor Day weekend.
Okay. So that also would probably explain possibly the thinner coat.
Oh, yeah, it could be. I mean, actually, yes, it could be. I mean, if you're talking about a regular animal and with shedding and the heat, oh, yeah, absolutely, because it was a warm summer that year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had a warm summer this year, too, man. It was brutal.
We had a warm everything.
Well, I mean, I think that summer was probably, I think the highest it got was maybe 92, but it was an average of probably about 87 all summer long.
Yeah. Okay.
But, and then, like I said, we just sat there, and I mean, it was probably about 5 minutes past with all three of us just looking at each other.
Wow. 5 minutes?
About 5 minutes. And then she just slowly turned around and walked not directly back up the stream, but walked towards what would be my right. So if that would, I think it would be towards the south. Yeah, towards the south. And started walking away from us, and she wasn't hurried at all. It was all just casual. She just kind of got bored with us, is what it looked like. You know, turned to her left, and started walking back and towards the northern bank, away from us. She looked
Okay.
back. Looked back over her left shoulder once, and then was gone.
Huh.
And it would have taken us probably a half an hour to climb that cliff, get up to where she was at. And we were like, no, we're not doing it.
Wow. You didn't notice any other ones hanging around?
Nope, she was the only one, and, no disproportion in the arm length. You know how a lot of people say that they have really long arms that are down to their knees, what have you.
Yeah.
No. It was completely humanoid proportions. Completely human proportions.
Now, when she walked, did she seem like she had like a locking knee, or did she have like the unlocked knee like an ape?
Unlocked knee. It was more like us, her gait was more like ours. Her stride was.
Okay. So
Yeah,
she had like a locked knee.
Yeah, she had a locked knee.
Okay.
And a little hunched over at the shoulders, not much, which is why I kind of think that, which was another indicator that she was probably more adolescent than, full grown. Because there was a little hunch, not a lot of hunch, kind of like a normal human being would have a hunch.
Just like a teenager with bad posture.
Yeah, teenager bad posture, exactly.
Okay.
But yeah,
Nice.
she wasn't even, kind of looked like she was looking at the ground as she was going through, probably not the slide off the rocks, because you know how the rocks are all slick and crap.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, yeah, she wasn't in a hurry or nothing. She just took her time.
She was just walking away saying YOLO.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Wow, man, that's good. I like that one.
But yeah, there was
good.
no sense of fright, no sense of danger, no sense of animosity, nothing. And after we stood there probably for another, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes along the bank of the river there, after she had gone out of view. And yeah, still the only thing you heard was the bird songs. I think, if I remember correctly, we heard one large snap a few minutes after she disappeared out of sight, but that was it.
Huh. Man. That's cool. And what I like about this is some of the times you'll hear people embellishing their story, like, oh, I got this sense of serenity and all this other stuff, and it believe it or not, well, I don't really want to say that because maybe that's what they were reading between the lines, but
Sorry.
what? Well, no, it's cool. But I mean, when the one that I kind of have a little bit of a problem really wrapping my brain around it. I can't discount it because it's an experience that's being reported, but the telepathic Bigfoot thing is something I just can't really get behind. You know what I mean?
Yes, I hear you 100%. I can't get around that. And the other one I can't really get around is the one up in Canada. Is it Alberta or is it Quebec that he's in?
Not sure. If you really want to talk Bigfoot, my dad. That guy has forgotten more about Bigfoot than most people will ever know.
That'd be great.
Yeah. We'll have to get him on here. But
That's awesome.
he would know up on that one. Yeah, and he's exchanged quite a few emails with Dr. Meldrum with questions with like Q&As and stuff like that. And he would definitely be up on the Alberta one.
Another person who might be a good one to talk to is actually Steve Bunker's father. Steve Bunker's father, actually, while he was in Vietnam, saw Bigfoot.
Wow.
Wood apes.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. That was a mind blower for me.
Yeah, they're everywhere, man.
And didn't he say that they were actually using tools? Because one of the things that my dad pointed out was you never hear reports of them using tools. And one of my arguments is if you're strong enough to basically deadlift a Volkswagen, you probably don't have too many needs for tools.
I heard, if I remember correctly, that that those type of Bigfoots actually used fire.
Really?
Bigfoot, I've also heard stories, of course, that Bigfoot used to use fire all the time up until the early 20th century. before man started encroaching on their habitat because they could be seen. So they stopped using it.
Huh. Which leads to a good question of the theory is Bigfoot somehow a supersized remnant of Neanderthal?
Yes, or is it like whatever what some people think they are, like in the Epic of Gilgamesh, or or other things? Are they a remnant population of the Archons?
Yeah, I'm not too
I think
familiar
they're
with
an
the whole
animal,
Archon thing.
truthfully. But
Yeah, that's. Well, did you see the reports? I forgot It is an accredited news source with actual scientists, not my favorite saying, dude, facts and bro science. But apes are actually in the 20th century, or I'm sorry, in the Stone Age. They're using stone tools.
I've also heard several. Now, I can't tell you if this is absolutely true or not because this is all hearsay. But that they do on occasion, they will steal tools such as larger knives. They will use ancient remnants or ancient artifacts such as stone tools and things like that. But they very rarely, but on occasion, will steal like human knives. They have to be bigger because they have bigger hands. But they will on occasion use fire. They will use a knife. But generally all they need is their fingernails.
Yeah.
They use their fingernails are sharp enough. They literally just they can skin a deer and go into the guts with their fingers.
Oh, I would not want to see that.
No.
It just sounds gnarly, man.
From reports, that I've heard.
What about you, Dave? Have you come across anything? I mean, you're up in NorCal. Have you come across anything like this? Noises, smells?
No, none like that. Although I'm up in the area like Shasta, where I have heard of a lot of sightings, and I've heard of that they've actually I got a buddy that went into Oregon, and he's a Bigfoot tracker, and he just did a casting, but personally not me, not with Bigfoot.
Okay.
But there is, I mean, there's definitely something out there, and I mean, people are definitely seeing things and bringing back, busts or casts of the prints and stuff like that. So I definitely believe he's out there.
Allison just brought up a pretty good point. What makes anybody think that we are, or language is, a superior form of communication?
Yeah.
And
that's easy. Profanity.
Yeah. That brings up a good point. Infrasound. Do they use hand signals? Do they talk telepathically? I don't know if they do or not, but I have heard from report after report that people can be made sick, that people can be frozen by a certain sound that as Rita says, big feet say, make. Very similar to what a tiger can do. I've heard a report of a gentleman who was hunting in India back in the early 1950s. He was no more than 20 feet away. There was a tiger directly in front of him, but it was making a very low growl. And the person behind him had to grab him and pull him back on the elephant, and he didn't even know that the tiger was there.
Well, I mean, if you think in terms of the way apes communicate, they use body language. They use subharmonics to communicate everything with.
Well, they also use tree knocks when they're because what a lot of people don't realize, and even Jane Goodall has gone through and has found this, but they do act as ambush hunters. In fact, they'll even hunt other chimps. But chimpanzees, they use wood knocks. And so this is one of the things that I think is funny is you get these guys going out there, we're going to find a squatch. And so they go, Yeah. Oh man, I hate that term. But they go out there, and they start beating on these trees like there's no tomorrow. And how do you know you're not screwing up their hunt and you're not going to piss them off? Or somehow
Are
there's
they-
a miscommunication. They think you're the prey.
Or are they knocking on trees looking for grubs?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that, but a lot of times when you see these reports and say you're in the middle of the trail, you'll hear a wood knock behind you, then you'll hear the wood knock in front of you. And that's a very common thing in a lot of these reports that I've come across where they do have wood knocks. And that pretty much means like, knock, knock, he's coming towards you, knock, knock, okay, I'm ready.
Right.
And so that means you're monkey in the middle, you're the prey.
Right. Well,
Well,
they
that's
do
very
send to
telling.
do send to gosh, Elmer Fudd. They do tend to set up their prey that way. They will go along a game trail. They'll have one behind. They'll have one up front. They'll let each other know that they're ready, and then the one at the end. The one at the end flushes the game forward, and the one that's forward jumps on the game.
Yeah.
But have you guys, has anybody, and I haven't looked, so I don't know, but I haven't heard to where there have been any reports to where anybody has gotten severely molested by a Bigfoot. Terrorized, yes.
No, actually,
Something like that too.
I forgot the guy's name, but there was a gentleman who reported that he was kidnapped by a Bigfoot for reproductive reasons.
I remember telling you about that one.
Yeah, and I read up on that, and I was just kind of like, that's horrible. That's
later.
Was it Osterman? Was his name?
I forgot.
Or was that a different one? That was the guy who got picked up in a sleeping bag near Skookum Meadows.
Oh yeah, that guy got dragged for miles. No, there is another guy who, basically, he was kidnapped because they wanted him for their female Bigfoots. And by the way, Rita, plural is actually Bigfoots, believe it or not. I know it doesn't sound natural, but that's the official plural, is Bigfoots.
Later on, remind me to tell you guys about the electrician out at Boeing and him getting kidnapped by Bigfoot for breeding purposes.
No way.
Yes, I worked with a guy out at Boeing when I worked for Boeing back in the 90s, yes.
Wow.
Really? Why don't you tell us about that now?
Just go for it now, man.
Yeah.
I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Go, Brian.
Okay. I'm going to tell you about this guy, and I'm not putting names. Yeah, okay. But anywho, this was a guy, a nice guy. I mean, don't get me wrong here. Really, really nice guy. But he would always wear a rope belt, and he would carry a backpack with rocks, full of rocks. And if you asked him why he carried the backpack full of rocks, he would tell you that the gravity on his home world was much more stronger than what it was here on Earth.
Oh.
Okay, so he was just keeping in shape that way for his gravity, but he disappeared.
Yes.
He disappeared from work for a month. Didn't come to work for a month. Okay, now remember, Boeing's unionized, but he disappeared for, I think it was right around a month. And they called his wife. His wife didn't know where he was at. Did all this stuff, couldn't find him. A month later, he goes to return to work. Well, they're in the process of terminating his employment.
They waited that long?
Well, it's union. Okay.
I was gonna say he must have been union.
And anywho, so and this is no lie because he would actually tell you for a fact. What had happened is he went camping. Okay. And while he was busy camping, and it was just him that was camping, he didn't take his family with him, just him. He got absconded by Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot, for breeding purposes. And he had just managed to escape a couple days before he came back to work. And he managed to retain his job because a psychiatrist actually gave him the excuse and backed up his story.
Oh, wow. So wait, okay, hold on. That's interesting because that makes it officially legal jargon.
Official, yes. Official legal jargon, yes.
Yeah. So it's officially legal saying that he was actually abducted by a Bigfoot.
Yeah, but
So
see,
there's legal documentation. That's what's interesting. Technicality there. It's
technicality
legal.
there, yes.
Yeah.
But try and find the psychiatrist that actually generated that paperwork.
Well, that psychiatrist may have been promoted to patient.
It might have been.
Now,
Okay.
hold on, Dave. I wanted to ask you a question. You don't think Bigfoot a reality?
No, I do. I totally agree. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I had seen a tweet by you that said, I don't think they're reality either.
No, I was okay. So let's back up a little bit. No, Allison Bell said those reality TV shows are not reality. I think
No.
everything is laughable on them, and they are live.
Yes.
A freight train in the forest. And I was agreeing with her. I don't think those. I mean,
13
it's like
people with
like
cameras
Ghost
and with
Squatch,
lights, and
what's up with that?
it's always going to be finding Bigfoot. It's never going to be found Bigfoot.
What's interesting is Alex Mastretta and I were actually kind of chatting back and forth in the Fadernaut group on Facebook about that because I had a little bit of a quip about Alex getting a reality show, which I think honestly would be amazing. Just putting that out there for anybody who might be listening.
Yeah.
But it just seems like producers have this image of what a researcher looks like. With your North Face full get up if you're a cryptid hunter, and if you're hunting ghosts, then you have to have your skin tight Ed Hardy shirts with baggy pants and faux hawks, and if you're a UFO hunter, then you have some sort of hodgepodge of like you're exploring the Amazon, but yet you have product for your hairstyle or whatever, and so they have like these different looks because it's become like this manufactured thing. And I do believe that. Well, actually, there's even been people saying, yeah, we have to recreate this reaction, and yeah, a lot of those reactions are manufactured. It sucks.
Rick,
and it's not that easy either.
Don't forget the marketing ploy either, because each one of that piece of clothing is named brand of some sort or another. So and Lord only knows where they're getting their funding from.
Well, I mean, we know where they're getting their funding from. Anybody who does an advertisement during the show, and the producers that get all these people to advertise, basically. And then, yeah, where there's a way, where there's a will, there's a product placement. Where the person happens to just, drink a name brand beverage on camera. Or if you notice on some of the reality shows, they'll put black tape over the brand name because, hey, you didn't pay us money. But what really irks me with these reality shows is like, okay, Ghost Adventures, for example. What people don't realize is within that 1 hour show, they're taking a 12-hour investigation, and that's not including all the actual paperwork and armchair chasing that they're doing before they actually get to the investigation. Because if you look at the show, they're going through the history behind the location, and they're dredging up, I mean, just obscure facts that will help the investigation. So, I mean, that takes time. My dad and I both know we had a thing on Maury Island that we did recently, and I can't tell you how many hours of investigation my dad did just on the paperwork end of it. So you have easily days worth of time doing the paperwork end of it. Then you have the travel time. Then you have this 12-hour investigation itself, and they condense all of it down to a 1 hour show. They're not showing you the hours between occurrences. It's like, okay, we got an EVP at 10 p.m. and then you have jack all until 1 a.m.
Hey,
You know,
guys,
that's what pisses me off.
I got some bad news.
What's that?
You know, with the other two we lost today, we also lost Wes Craven today.
No
Oh,
way.
I saw that. Yeah, Lisa just tweeted that out.
Sad.
Wes
Wow.
Craven.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Wayne Dyer, Wes Craven, and Dr. Sachs, all in the same day. Always go in threes, don't they?
Always go in threes. I was just going to say that.
That's the
Well,
myth.
Hey, you know what? We still have John Carpenter, so we're good. But wow, Wes Craven, that is a loss for the horror film genre. I mean, who did not? I mean, in our age range, who did not see Nightmare on Elm Street in the movie or in the drive-in? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be me. I didn't see it in the drive-in.
Oh man, yeah, in my tax bracket, drive-in. A lot of drive-in movies.
Yeah, a lot of people jumping in the trunk.
Yep.
In the trunk.
Duck down underneath the blanket.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that. I saw Karate Kid in the drive-in.
I saw
Oh, wow.
Alien. I remember seeing Alien in the
Ooh.
drive-in. That was good.
Oh, I bet that was a good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was great. That one was great.
Everybody seems to agree that Alex Mastretta having his own show would be pretty darn cool.
You know, and okay, before everybody thinks I'm a fanboy, okay, yeah, I am.
You are a
But-
fanboy.
No, but here's why. Is the dude is real. He doesn't sugarcoat stuff. He doesn't try to lead you to believe something that's centered around his agenda. I mean, if you look at all of his all his tweets, or I'm sorry, his postings on Facebook, if you read his website, if you read his book, The Presence, he's doing what a researcher and a healthy skeptic. People confuse skeptic and debunker. A debunker just calls bullshit on everything. Skeptic goes, okay, and okay, for example, a UFO. They'll say, okay, there's an object up in the sky, it's flying, I have no idea what it is. It is a UFO. Now, I'm not going to say I know where it's coming from. We need to dig into that and figure out what it is. Right now, it's a UFO because it's an unidentified flying object. So there you have that. And then they'll dig into it. So they make no assumptions, and they don't try to lead you in a certain direction. And everything that I've personally seen coming from Alex takes that approach. And that is why I'm a fan of his work, because it's more in line with what we try to do at Strange Happenings. Try to be as neutral as possible, because we're looking for the answer. We're not looking to appease anybody, because the truth is neither good nor bad. It just simply is what it is.
Well, he's not out there looking for a show either.
Roswell slide.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, see,
Okay, that's my only cheap shot of the evening. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
well,
I'm done.
See, with me, whenever I see something, I try to prove that it could be something. I look at it at the aspect that it could be something natural or man-made first. But I don't sit there and say, well, it can't be this because of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying
Right.
what I do
Yeah.
is I just toss out the possibility maybe it's this. Because my thought process is not set in stone on anything. So I try to have that open mind without saying, ooh, this is what it is, or that's what it is. I'm just saying, it's a possibility that this is what it is. I can't be sure, but,
And,
Well,
and to go along with that, guys, the minute you say something and you put it out there, someone's going to be right on your ass.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Well, there's a saying, one crap erases 1,000 attaboys. It doesn't matter how many things you nail. You screw up once, it wipes out all the good things you did.
Oh
like
yeah,
that-
well,
or
take
like
a
that-
look at yeah.
Yeah, or like that one joke, you screw one sheep.
Mm.
But
not that I condone that, but but
Rick,
Okay.
hey,
moving on.
Yeah,
Just
moving
keep-
on. Hey, we got a
just keeping
couple
it
of
legal.
tweets real quick. we got a few tweets I want to throw out there. Oh, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to Lindsay and Oz. She's had a horrible few days, and she wanted to join us, but she's a little sick right now. So I just want to say, Lynn, if you're listening, please hope you get better, hope you feel better, and make a quick recovery.
Sending love to Lindsay.
Lots of love to Lindsay. So we
I
got
can't-
Double
I can't-
T for Lens.
I can't have anything bad happen to my favorite Australian. Period.
Right.
Get better.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So Lisa here says #Squatch. My grab on some native people have legends of such, but it's not to reproduce. Maybe just think they're cute. Okay. And we got Gunny out there. Gunny's like, I've always felt that the show on AP, instead of being Finding Bigfoot, should be Not Finding Bigfoot.
Oh,
Oh, it's true though. It's absolutely
Yeah.
true, Dean.
yeah.
And,
They wouldn't have a show if they found Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Fran says, I saw Barbarella at the drive-in.
Oh, wow.
Well, another reason a lot of people seem to don't talk about, and it's just started to come to the forefront in Bigfoot research, and the natives have known this for centuries, is they don't kidnap children, women, for the reasons that they want to reproduce. They're capturing women and children because they're easy game.
Yeah, who's
Food.
Polites. All the disappearances around Yosemite is usually children wearing extremely bright colors, and we're talking like construction worker orange type shirts and stuff like that. That most parents believe keeps their children safe because they can see their kid easily, and next thing you know, they turn around and their kid is being carried off into the woods.
I actually just heard the opposite though. A story of a young, and I'll send you guys out the YouTube video of this later if I can find it. It's probably in my history of a man now who was at a very young age, probably 4 or 5 years old, got lost in the woods. Next thing he remembers is a big hairy hand grabbing his and leading him back to his campsite. A female Bigfoot. He said it was he called it a big monkey or a big curious George when he was a kid. But being older now, he realizes that it quite possibly was a Bigfoot. Now, does this denote that they do have that they are just as intelligent as we are?
Well, I mean, even your average chimpanzee will show maternal instinct.
True.
You
Yeah,
know,
but to
and,
bring the child back to its actual campsite.
I mean, it could be just they're finding the animals, and you'll see this, that they're finding the animals are much more intelligent than we've been giving them credit
and that
for.
they have emotions too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Example, when Robin Williams passed, and Coco, her reaction through sign language.
That was a good video.
Yeah, but her reaction of when Robin Williams passed, and when they told her that Robin Williams was passed, and she has a full concept of death. This is a gorilla. The only thing they ever taught her was sign language, but she has a concept of death. She has a concept of sadness, and she understands, fully cognitive, that she's never going to see Robin Williams again. Now, you cannot tell me that is not intelligence. It's not that's not self-awareness.
Well, not
And
to mention that the video
showed
before the video before the one where she found out that he passed was that video of her and him hanging out and just having a good time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was heartbreaking to see after the fact too.
So
But also her
knew-
interaction
knew
with
who he
Mr.
was.
Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, I was going to say that.
That's
yeah.
another one. Yeah. So I mean, the only difference between Coco and any other gorilla is that she was taught sign language. So, you know, if we taught every gorilla sign language somehow, you know, we would probably have a very rude awakening of our place on the earth.
Well, the concept isn't that hard to do, but you've got to teach a wild gorilla that. That way,
Exactly.
when you reintroduce them in, they can spread their knowledge to other gorillas and teach them. So, I mean, the concept isn't that wild.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's really interesting that in the newer version of Planet of the Apes, that's essentially what happened.
Yes.
Yeah, with the Planet of the Apes reboot. And if you notice in the, was it Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, only Caesar can actually vocalize, but all the other ones do communicate through sign language. And scientists, I don't know the article right in front of me, but they found that they believe that gorillas may be capable of speech.
You know, I read something about that. Yeah, I saw that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Yeah, I saw that the other day, and I didn't read through the entire article. I was a little too busy doing something else.
And to bring up something that Allison had brought up earlier, thinking that she had said that she thought Neanderthal were taught through telepathy. Actually, they found that Neanderthal could speak, but their voices were much higher than ours.
And that might explain the high-pitched whoops and everything that you hear from Sasquatch.
So are they a mix between Gigantopithecus and Neanderthal?
Well, I don't know about. I'm by no means a genetics guy.
Yeah.
But
I think at this point we don't have any genetics to go off of because nobody can give a positive sample.
Well, there was one investigation that Meldrum did where they basically, oh man, it is a brutal way of getting the genetic sample, but basically they took like a plank of wood and drove wood screws through the bottom of it.
Oh, that was on Monster.
Yeah, or Monsters in America, or yeah, it was on one of those. And at first, the sample they had wasn't viable because of the galvanizing of the screws. You know, screwed up the sample. They were able to extract it from the galvanization, and they said that everything that came up was human. But when they outlined basically the blood footprint, you know, on the board, it was the size of a Bigfoot footprint. But what they're saying is the genetic sample that came back was human.
Well, and it had one matching base pair to chimpanzee, or was very close to chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Well,
so
if you think about it, archaeological wise, they're talking. What is it now? I think we're up to 10 different type of humanoids. You know, and Homo sapien was the only one, quote unquote, to survive.
Yeah, but also Homo sapien, that has variations. You have like the Caucasian, and you have the African, and then you have Asian, and then you have Aboriginal, which is Native American, and Aborigines in Australia, and they all have different markers within that. So we're kind of like a subspecies of a subspecies.
Exactly.
You know, and then there's even I forgot where the data came from, but like certain species of humans, like, you know, Caucasians have a little more like reptilian DNA than like Asians that supposedly have a little more avian DNA, and yeah, it's weird that there's a little bit more tweaking here and there. I don't remember where the report came from, so don't take it as the gospel. Don't take it as being very valid. Until I can find the report and you know, show the veracity of it, you know, don't take it, because I mean it could be dude facts and bro science that I came across. You know, I just want to make sure I make that clear.
Right.
You know.
No,
but,
we totally understand, Rick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Hey guys, let's take a quick break, and
Okay.
we'll regroup. We're talking with Rick Sennett and Leslie Johnson, and we're talking Bigfoot. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Les a little bit about shamanism. How about that?
awesome.
Cool.
All right, we'll be back in a minute. And we're back with Beyond the Strange. We're talking with Leslie Johnson III and Rick Sennett with Brian Anderson. Just got done talking about Bigfoot, and you guys are awesome. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And also,
Oh.
I'd like to thank all the Fadernauts and the Beyonders out there that are listening.
Beyonders, right on, Rick.
Yeah, you like that? See, I should have gone into marketing. I can always come up with some sort of clever name.
Yeah, if you want to be strange, listen now. Absolutely.
There you go.
Beyonders. That's great, Rick.
Thank you.
I love that.
No, in my luck, it's probably copyrighted by like Marvel Comics or something by now. But
Well, if not, it will be. That's for sure.
Very soon.
So Les, let's talk a little bit about shamanism. What got you into that, and how did you start going about that?
Well,
Talk a
about in
little
high
about that.
school, and Rick, feel free to jump in. You too, Brian, because I know we all know a little bit about a lot. So, it started in high school. Picked up a book on Raymond Buckland, Practical Candle Burning Rituals, and it went from there. I became one of those. Actually, I was one of the people who could go in between groups. I was one of those weird people. I hung out with the Enigmas. I hung out with the drama crowd. I hung out with the preppies. I hung out with just about everybody but anyway, it started just with that book, and then it moved on to a little bit darker stuff like the Necronomicon and other books, and then I took a break, got back into my 30s, became more of a pagan, because I really couldn't find anything in that I really enjoyed, that I really liked, because it seemed everything was so. All major religions are cultish, and they all seem to have started from somewhere else. Whether they started from the Druids, the Christianity stole from the Druids, and Wiccans also stole from Middle Eastern, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And,
well, Les,
yeah.
You know the difference between a religion and a cult, right?
Nothing.
Membership. This is really what it comes down to. If you think about it, because
Good one.
at one point, all mythology was a mainstream religion. You know, if you look at the Greek and the Roman, religions and all that, that was mainstream religion, and Christianity was this weird cult. And over time, now that's mythology, and Christianity is a religion.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't just wanted to pop that in there. Didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
No, please,
Good stuff.
everybody interrupt. That's what this shit.
No, but that's true though. It
No,
seems like
it did. It started out, Christianity or Catholicism started out as a cult, just like, just because, and Rick is right. Now that the Druids are less in number, it was a mainstream religion 4,000 plus years ago, and now it's a cult again.
Well, was it actually a religion, or was it just a mainstream belief as far as Druidism was concerned?
Oh, actually, it was a mainstream belief. You're actually right.
It really comes down on who you ask. If you ask a Druid, they'll say it's a religion.
Well, I can't ask a Druid. I can't go back in time.
Exactly.
There are Druids
Oh,
around
no.
now, but
yeah, Les, we were talking about that earlier this week. Explain how there are Druids around still.
Rick, I'll leave this one to you.
Or Rick.
Well, actually, that's one that I'm a little on the fence about, because Druids they passed down all of their knowledge orally. They didn't have anything really written. It was a lot, and that's where like the Irish and the Scots are a lot like the Native Americans. Is a lot of their belief structures and the way they passed down information was very similar. It was all through oral tradition. So what you have later on is you have kind of what's been pieced together through archaeological finds and what you can get from what's more than likely a biased account from Greeks and Romans. So it's definitely not as pure of a Druid belief as it was way back when, because unfortunately that's been destroyed. We only have the remnants to be able to build off of. But there are people who are practicing Garnerian Wicca, which is the reconstruction of what is able to be found on Wicca, and also of Druidism, and even some of the like the the lone practitioner form of Wicca that the Picts used to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I got.
Well, as Rick was saying, Wicca is not an ancient religion. I mean, it's got some basis off of what some Druidic knowledge, but it's also got it also has ancient philosophy. It has and several other religions added in. As Rick said, when you were a Druid, you passed on your knowledge to a chosen person in your village from an early age. You very much like the Native Americans would do with their storytellers. From a very early age, you would be picked. You would show the signs that you were going to be one of the chosen. They would take you from your family, and you would literally hang out or be with the Druid shamans for the rest of your life. You were literally removed from your family, from your friends, from your village. And from what I have read, the Druid shamans would go from village to village whenever they were needed. They mainly communed with nature. And now, Druids also, in the most extreme circumstances, would use blood sacrifice and ritual, and they would consume human flesh when the need arose. One such time was when the Romans invaded, when Rome went to totally drive out the Druidic religion altogether. It was Rome. All they wanted to do was basically wipe the Druids out, and they pretty much did that. If the Druids are still alive today, they did so by hiding. Hello?
Yeah, no, we're listening to you.
I'm getting a lot of digital tiling. That's why I didn't know if someone was still there or not.
Oh no, we're just listening, dude.
Yeah. Although I
Yeah,
would like to point out,
it's like on Fade to Black when Twitter goes silent. It's
Uh-huh.
because everybody is listening.
yeah, exactly. But
Well, you know-
questions are coming in.
Mhm.
I'm sorry,
Well,
not
it-
questions, but comments like Lisa. Lisa says early Christian cultists were the ones who slaughtered Hypatia of Alexandria because even then they hated smart people.
Smart people.
Smart.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's interesting is going village to village and, you know, pretty much the recruiting, for a lack of a better term, the recruiting method with the Druids is also what the Catholic Church practiced, where I believe it was the youngest son was basically promised to the Catholic Church to become a priest. Not being a Catholic, I don't, you know, I can't say for certain, but I believe that was the tradition. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But especially during the Middle Ages, I believe that was the practice.
Well, I think you're right.
Yeah.
You know, as Lisa just said, the ancient Druidic faith doesn't exist anymore. It was wiped out and because it didn't have a written language. Kill the people, kill the culture.
Oh wow.
There you go. Now, Wicca was born very probably to emulate, I think, the Druidic religion. It was set up to worship nature. Now, of course, if you talk to any Wiccan, you talk to 10 Wiccans, you'll get 15 different answers of what Wicca is. Truthfully, it's different for each. It's different for each person, and that's why paganism is a growing movement, I believe. You could take what's in your heart as long as you follow, the basic rules. There's two basic rules in Wicca, and that is harm none, do what you will, and the threefold law. Whatever you do will return to you 3 times. Ever mind the rule of 3. 3 times, 3 times you will return to you what you give out.
Be your intent good or bad?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And also another thing, a lot of your younger Wiccans don't read too far into the rule of read, which is, and if it harm none, do as thou wilt. But when you read into it, it's actually a lot more, it puts a lot more of the responsibility on the practitioner than, say, like the 10 Commandments, in a way.
Unless you're in a coven.
Well, because here's the thing. Okay, for example, you're a smoker. Okay, just say you're a smoker. And if you're smoking in a room with non-smokers, well, your secondhand smoke will harm those people. So therefore, you just screwed up the end if it harm none. So if you go out into a field where there's no other people around to suffer from your secondhand smoke, you're still screwing up that rule. Because if you get emphysema, heart disease, or lung cancer, now your friends and family who have to also suffer from their perspective of your affliction, now you're harming them, because even though you're sick, they're going through the mental anguish and they're going through all that. So in a way, even though you're not physically harming them, you're still mentally harming them with them seeing you sick and possibly dying. So depending on how deep you want to go into the rule of read, it's actually a much heavier rule. And it's a much more all-encompassing with a very simple just sentence. And
Exactly.
That's what a lot of people don't really seem to realize.
Well, Rick,
Exactly.
when you're saying that these kids today, were you meaning that they take mainly the most, I guess I would say, powerful parts of Wicca, or they just bypass, doing things good and then just going after what they want using?
Well, not necessarily
witchcraft or anything like that, but I mean,
Yeah.
is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, not necessarily a young person, in their teens or 20s or anything like that, but somebody who is new to that particular faith. who hasn't been raised with it, and say maybe they're in their 40s, and they finally found what appeals to them. What I find with quite a few of your, quote unquote offshoot religions, people use it to validate their own bad behavior, and they only skim the surface. And for example, the rule of read, and if it harm none, well, I'm not bothering anybody. It's like, well, no, actually you are.
No.
You're just looking at the surface. You're not digging down. And they just go for it as like a convenience. And then that way it's like, well, why are you doing this? Oh, well, because my faith. And they're still not really taking any personal responsibility. And I think regardless of the religion, whether it's Hindu, Buddhism, or any of the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, people need to take more self-responsibility. They need to be responsible for themselves and their community, and look at the overall good, and not just push their own agenda on everybody else. And I don't really mean to get political, but if you look at a lot of the stuff that's in the paper, especially every election season, you will find people of different faiths trying to push their own religion, and they're not looking at the common goal. For example, gay marriage. If you're against gay marriage, yeah, it's easy. Don't become gay and marry a gay person. I think that's pretty simple. If you're against gay marriage, don't marry a gay guy. But I mean,
Or a
that's
woman.
just wrong. Yeah, or a woman if you're a female, or whatever. That's just the way I look at it. Is more of your own personal responsibility. If that makes sense. Am I talking myself into a rabbit hole?
No.
Yeah.
We get where you're coming
Yeah.
from, and I think that there's always an agenda when it comes to, like you were saying earlier about religion, Les. That like with the Catholics and the Roman Empire, it was basically, in my opinion, again, because it's not set in stone, that they were using it to control the people in some way.
Yes. Well, it's that's that's what religion. A lot of the mainstream religions now seem to be about. It's if you go. Now, I used to be a Catholic. I went to a parochial school through 8th grade, and then a Jesuit school up until junior year. If you go to a Catholic mass, I can compare what goes on in Druidic rituals, Wiccan rituals, and the Catholic Mass are all extremely similar.
Well, even the use of smoke. With even the use of smoke and certain herbs and incense. If you look at Native Americans, if you look at Aborigine cultures,
Smudging.
if you look at all of them, yeah, smudging, perfect example. You burn sage to clean your home, or whatever building of bad spirits and negativity. It all goes back, and nobody wants to admit it, whether it's pride or arrogance, what have you. But nobody wants to admit that there are a lot of common factors, and rather than getting together and trying to achieve some good with the things that we have in common, everybody focuses on the differences and uses that to say, well, we're better than them. But if you look at it, the incense, the burning, and the chanting, even like the certain frequencies of the songs goes back to the same thing of ritual throughout, I don't know, pretty much the founding of religion with human beings, whether it's a more natural paganistic type of religion or the more organized, Abrahamic or Hindu or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at it, okay, here's a classic example as well. You look at the body and blood of Christ. In the Wiccan ritual, during the meat, you have bread and apple juice. Or you have the athame and you have the cup. You have the Catholic religion or the Christian religion, in order to bring in the pagan religions, it took a lot of the pagan religions and put it into their own to make it more familiar, to make them more, and Dave, with what you were just talking about, do they use religion to control? Look what's happening in the United States right now. We have newsreels day after day saying, pushing into your and mine and everybody else's head that Islam is evil, that when the Islamic religion in and of itself is a very peaceful religion. Right. They want us to go to, because of the machine, they want us to go to war with them. For like another, think about the Catholic, the Christians in the Catholic religion back in the Middle Ages, when they went to the Middle East and killed Islam then.
Not sorry to interrupt, but I would say that Islam and Judaism and Christianity are about on par with their peace loving. To be honest,
because they say they are.
Well, there's a lot of bloodshed, and what people don't realize is the Islamic radicals that we have, bombing us and shooting at us and all that stuff. They're of the same mindset as, say, the Westboro Baptist Church. They're radicals. Right. The difference between Westboro so far and whether it's ISIS or ISIL or whatever they're calling themselves this week, honestly, is firepower. If I really don't think the Westboro Baptist Church is too far behind from picking up guns if they finally, have that last straw and just decide to go full militant. And there are religion-based militant groups out there.
Sure, they're Republicans.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but I mean.
No, I know. I was breaking. I was just,
yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, Brian, chime in.
But it's always been my impression, and this is just my impression, this is what I've always understood, is that Christians, well, actually Jews or Judaism, and Islam are like basically cousins throughout history.
Yeah, Abrahamic religion.
Exactly.
Yeah, they all come from the teachings of Abraham. The big difference between Judaism/Christianity and Islam is pretty much what they argue over is who is supposed to be sacrificed, Ishmael or Isaac. That's what they argue over.
Well, not only that, but Islam blames the Jewish people for killing their prophet where the Islamic people did not.
No.
I mean, that's always been my understanding because the Jewish people went ahead and were duplicitous against Jesus.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, if you remove the religious aspect of the whole entire tale of Jesus and look at it as more of a political thing, politics-wise, yeah, Jesus was screwing up the program. Is really what it came down to. Yeah. Now, the whole entire situation with Jesus wasn't good for the Romans. It wasn't good for the hierarchy in Judaism. But I mean, what it really came down to is it was a Roman occupied territory, and from what I understand, Pontius Pilate was actually a fairly heavy-handed governor. He wasn't this indecisive, hand-washing guy that you'll see in the movies, from the 50s.
No, if he was a governor, he would not have been that.
Yeah,
and a Roman governor at that.
Yeah, their thing is no, we don't take crap, and the only thing we take from you is your taxes.
Right.
And so, if he saw anything that was going to pop his happy bubble, he would get rid of it. And so, I mean, really, all these people are after the Jews and everything. You might want to think about going after the Italians because the Romans are the ones that killed them. I'm sorry, But
No. I totally agree. I mean, I know the history, and I
yeah,
can't fault that. It's just, I was always led to understand, like I said, is that, with the Muslim belief, they, regardless if Mohammed was insane or not, he was still their prophet.
exactly.
Okay, and they didn't do any harm to Muhammad. Matter of fact, they pretty much were led blindly by Muhammad.
Uh-huh.
Wherewith, when it comes to their viewpoint, though, and this is what I've always understood, and it could just be me and my misunderstanding, but the Islamic belief is that the Israelis killed their prophet in spite of their nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that they just did it because reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I mean, my personal take on the whole thing is, you have a bunch of people fighting over a large patch of desert on the other side of the world, and let them fight it out. I mean, other than religion and oil, why do we really care? I mean, my family is from Ireland and Scotland.
Yeah.
Genetically, if you want to go by religious borders and genetics and all that stuff, my family, we should be druids and pagans and all that, and we're far removed from that. And now that we're in North America, really, what concern do we have? Let them fight it out. Just go for it. Let them fight it out. As long as they can contain it in that little sandbox, go for it.
I totally agree. I'm
And
100% with that.
whoever's left standing, then okay, cool. Let's set up a diplomatic relationship. I mean, it's and again, here you have groups that want to genetically engineer a red heifer to bring about end of days. And it's like, why are you guys so obsessed with ending the world?
Right. Thinking of, speaking of segue, what? All right, how we were thinking about talking about demons tonight,
Yes.
Yeah.
talking about religions, and talking about spirits. Do you guys think? And I'll leave the question open to all of you. Do you guys think that demons were originally nature spirits or spirits that were around before that religion demonized and turned into demons? We quite possibly had a working relationship with these before, but now religion, Christianity, Catholicism, what you name it, Judaism, demonized them,
Well,
literally.
if you go on that thought process, and this is just me again, if you go on that thought process, now you've got somebody that was in the Dark Ages or before, and they were suffering with an ailment and suffering bad. And when you bring religion into it, ideally, well, not ideally, but I mean, the whole thought process behind it would be, well, that person is suffering because they have an evil spirit or a demon inside them. There's no other reason. It's not that, it's a natural sickness that they have or an abscessed tooth or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
They're possessed. And that's the way it used to be, too. They were possessed by an evil spirit, an evil entity. And
Or an entity that had to be appeased in some way.
exactly. And then when you get into witches were just, for the most part, women or people who could actually knew how to brew up home remedies to
They were
ease that
herbalists.
ailment. Yeah, exactly.
Basically their knowledge of medicines and herbs and everything kind of stole the religion's thunder.
Yeah.
Basically.
And
Yeah,
then, and then they
yeah.
came under persecution from the religious sect.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. I mean that's a deep rabbit hole of a conversation. Because I mean, well, first off, the elemental spirit thing, and going back to Islam, they believe in jinn, and the jinn were actually elemental spirits, and depending on the ghost aspect of paranormal research that you talk to, there are non-human entities that they come across that are either elemental or somehow manifested through negative energy. And also, when you get over to, when we get over here to New World, you have stories of the Pukwudgie, for example. They were working hand in hand with Native Americans, and everything was cool until basically they started being a little too demanding. And so the Native Americans, I'm butchering the story, by the way, so my apologies. But basically a giant scattered the Pukwudgies all over the Northeast.
Their greatest fighter did.
Yeah, and just royally pissed off the Pukwudgies. So now when the Pukwudgies come in contact with humans, they have nothing but malicious intent. You also have brownies. You have the wee folk from Scotland and Ireland. So you have a lot of tales of these basically like elemental style spirits that are very common throughout the Hawaiians. I know I'm going to butcher this name. It's like the Mokapere, I believe, is also like a brownie Pukwudgie type of spirit. It's a small little diminutive spirit that is appeased. In fact, my great-grandmother on my mother's side, fresh from Scotland, would still leave like milk and bread out for the wee folk. And it's just one of those superstitions.
And they would actually not eat it, but absorb the spirit of it, or the elemental force of the bread, or the liquor, or the whatever.
Yeah. Well, and my mom and her parents just thought the local neighborhood cats were drinking the milk and eating the bread. But I mean, a lot of cultures have non-human spirits in their folklore and their mythology. The times when you come across a situation where you don't have that is actually in the Abrahamics, with the exception of Islam, which does believe in elemental spirits being the jinn.
Now, it's funny you guys brought up the jinn, because I had written down a few things on, and what I had just tweeted out was actually called the Key of Solomon. There was a Key of Solomon and a Ring of Solomon. Now, the Key of Solomon was used to talk to both the good jinn and the bad jinn. There were both in the Ars Goetia. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Rick. It's a group of symbols used to protect oneself, and Solomon actually used the Key of Solomon and the Ring of Solomon to have the jinn, the both good and bad, or demons, or whatever you want to call them. The Christians and the Catholics will call them demons now, to help build the Temple of Solomon. The Key of Solomon, or the Ring of Solomon, was supposedly lost when when I will not say its name, because giving a demon/elemental's name gives them power and turns you into a light in the darkness, if you believe in that sort of thing. Took the ring, threw it in the ocean, and a fish came. When Solomon went to a local market, he actually opened up a fish, and the ring was inside a fish. The ring he used, now in the Judeo religion, they actually use the ring as it's no longer something you wear. It was an iron band originally that Solomon wore with 4 jewels, and each jewel was used to control the elements. The part iron, part copper or bronze, I believe. Now it's actually used as a protection symbol. You know, the 5-pointed star with the circle around it, a pentagram,
or pentacle, depending on the faith. Yeah,
it's pretty much used. That is the key. That's the basic key of Solomon now, or the Ring of Solomon, and it is used for protection now.
Now, what's
So-
interesting is the band being iron. When you go into Celtic mythology,
That's right.
iron is very significant, especially with
It's poison to the
elves.
Fae.
Yeah, and some, depending on the story, it isn't necessarily that it's poison, but it's like the one metal that just they can't wrap their head around, and especially steel, because it's carbonized iron. But iron is very significant in a lot of your spirit and demonic type of things. It's like iron is one of those things that you use as protection against evil, and also why you have the iron horseshoe above your door.
And if I'm not mistaken, where it comes to vampire lore as well, it wasn't a wooden stake originally; it was an iron stake.
I did not know that.
And also when it went over to the wooden stake, they were very specific. It wasn't just like a chunk of wood like you'll see like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer
Right.
or anything like that, but it was from the heart of an oak tree. It was very specific. It was from the heart of an oak tree, and that was the specific wood that you used. I mean, they were very specific. But vampire lore, I mean, there's even things like, if you really want to, like, vampires supposedly have really horrible OCD, so you toss knotted string at their feet, and no matter if they're about to kill you, they have to stop and pull all the knots out. I mean,
That's right. I remember that.
yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, iron has been one of those metals throughout the centuries that different cultures have used for either binding, capturing, or getting rid of, keeping them away from, these elemental spirits, if that's what we want to call them, to either keep them away, bind them, trap them, or whatever you want to do with them. Iron and steel is the only metal throughout almost all cultures.
Yeah, yeah. And what's really interesting is, I don't know if this really has too much to do with it, but you'll notice with Celtic and even into Norse cultures, there's a lot of knotwork. And there's a lot of knotwork, like brooches and stuff like that, made out of iron. The Celts pretty much invented steel. That was the edge they had over the Romans, because they were still using bronze. So it's really interesting to see how that influence came about. Blacksmiths were basically forced to live outside of the village because
they were considered magic users.
Yeah, and they were afraid that the magic may go astray and screw up the rest of the village.
The reason they had workshops and kilns and it was in the dark was to mimic a cave.
Yeah, and
because they were magicians of the earth, that they controlled the elements, they controlled fire, they controlled earth, they controlled.
Exactly.
There you go.
And if you think about it, they use all of the four elements. Wind with the bellows, earth. They're grabbing ore. Fire.
And then water to quench.
And water to cool it. So I mean, yeah, there's if you dig deep, I mean, there's a lot of heavy stuff in that with the Celtic spirituality and everything with that.
Well, if you've all seen, PBS put out a special a year or two ago, if you guys want to go into swords and stuff like that, I mean, about the Ulfbert sword. It actually was made of, it was the first steel created in 999 BC in, they're not sure exactly where it was created, but in the Scandinavian area, Scandinavia. It was made, quite a few hundred years before they were even supposed to be able to make it. It was only around for 200 years, though, and then it disappeared.
But my big question is what, here you got this guy working with iron. Here he is, he's at his bellows working, and all of a sudden he goes, hey, you know what? I have this great idea. How about I make this even hotter, and you can somehow get carbon in this and make it even stronger. I mean, what I'm wondering is how in the hell does that thought process come about?
I don't
because
think it was
trial and error.
I don't think it was a thought process. What I think is it was probably an accident by accident.
The first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, by accidentally putting the metal into the ashes themselves, hence introducing the carbon. And then suddenly somebody noticed, wow, this is really strong.
And it bends and it doesn't break.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of the first, hey, hold my beer moment.
Or, they could have used the carbon by literally imbuing the sword with the strength of a bear and using bear bones, or using the bones of your ancestor when burned down turn into carbon. And that's how you make a magic sword.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that it just triggered a thought process with Japanese sword making. Part of the tricks that they couldn't figure out on how to make a Japanese sword the way they used to is when they would make the sword, how they would do it is they would quench the sword into a prisoner. I mean, they would literally quench the sword in a human's blood. And they found that actually did change some of the molecular structure of the steel. A little trivial trivia there. But yeah, that was one of the tricks. And yeah, so I can definitely see, oh wow, who knew? A moment when it came to making steel.
Allison just also pointed out that Japan did it before that.
Not necessarily. I was just typing to her. I'll send out the link to the YouTube, to the PBS special on it.
And Gunny, thanks for the pentagram. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that is a cool one. Yeah. Sweet.
Or pentacle. I'm sorry.
Yes. Pentagram, pentacle. It's all about protection. It's not evil.
Hey Les, I want to backtrack a little bit, and I actually wanted to ask you a question. When you got into reading the Necronomicon, is it like Evil Dead and all? Like you see in the movies. I mean, is it bound with? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It looks like it's a real evil book.
Well, that was what went around in high school, and that seems to have stuck with it. And it was written by a guy called the Mad Monk. Okay, and it's Sumer. I can't even remember the language that it's written in. It was either Sumerian or Sumeric or whatever. And really the only thing I remember from it was a quote. Eden Nazu Bara. It means "Be gone, go back to the desert with you."
Okay.
And something you said to an evil spirit to make it go away.
Now, having read the Necronomicon, okay, let me just add a little bit of tidbit in there, because everybody thinks this book is absolutely 100% fake and was written by I think he's now deceased, owner of the Magic Child there in New York City, or what is the former Magic Child.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've read it.
From what I understand, I'm familiar with the Necronomicon from all the H.P. Lovecraft books, and he said it was written by Abdullah Hazred, the Mad, which I guess also is the Mad Monk. But from what I understand, it was a work of fiction that borrowed from a lot of ancient spiritual practices and stuff like that. So that's where it does have some validity.
Yes.
I'm on the fence on the Necronomicon. I know a friend of mine had like this life quest to confirm whether or not it was real. But Les, what are some of the other things that you remember from it? Because I haven't read it, because in my own mind I kind of put it on a back burner because I had other stuff that I wanted to look into.
Being older now and realizing where some of the symbols came from, some of it seems like gibberish now that I think about it. a lot of it is taken, they'll take little bits and pieces of different language, of the Sumerian or language. They took a little bit of a little bit from here, a little bit from there. They used some of the symbols are, seem nonsensical. Some of them I've seen before, but I've seen in I've seen in Jewish mysticism texts, but it's been quite a while since I've read it, so I couldn't really go into it like I used to be able to. I used to be able to, quote from it, but that was a long time. That was just too long ago. I don't remember it being as all evil as all that. Everybody said, "Oh, you don't read the Necronomicon," which is exactly the reason why I read it.
No, the Necronomicon was not exactly evil. It gave you it kind of was a half and half book. And, a lot of what it was between the elder gods and the ancient gods. The ancient gods being the ones against mankind, and the elder gods being the ones for mankind.
And it was about how to get rid of the elder gods, mainly, to keep them at bay.
Right, but if you noticed, I don't know how much you recall from it, but if you noticed, most of that text, most of the names in that literature actually went back to Sumerian texts. Enlil, Enkel, all those, Tiamat, the whole 9 yards, all went back to the ancient Sumerian language.
Now that you're saying that I do remember those names being in there. And maybe that's why I knew about them all the time when everybody was talking about that stuff. When, it was Sitchin. When Sitchin came up a year or two ago, when I started on listening to Fade to Black. You're right, yeah. A lot of that, so did he, when was the, if it was taken from the Mad Monk and the writings did this guy that you were talking about, Brian, add his own stuff, maybe from Sitchin, maybe from older, Sumerian texts?
I think most of where he got most of his information, because remember what we're talking about here. If I remember correctly, this gentleman who wrote the book, who actually did the book, owned the Magic Child in New York. Now, the Magic Child was a magic shop in New York that was devoted to the arcane. So, it was completely devoted to the arcane, the belief in the arcane, anything dealing with arcane. So it very well could be that he borrowed very, very heavily from the Sumerian texts, along with other books that he ran across, because he had a lot of old. That was his deal, is to sell these old grimoires that everybody was producing, or that he was able to get original copies of.
Yeah, anybody who had that much material easily on hand, which it sounds like this guy definitely did, would be able to put together something like that. I'm not saying that it's bogus. I'm just saying the possibility of him being able to put together a Necronomicon. He has basically the original occult Google right there in his shop, and he would be able to pull up any resource. When Anton LaVey wrote the Satanic Bible, it was, pretty much plagiarized from a lot of older texts. So, it's very possible. Because, think about everything he had in that shop.
Exactly. That was his livelihood, was to, deal to the arcane community, be it, any religion dealing with ancient Egypt.
Was this during the spiritual movement, like in the early 20th century?
No. This was actually way later than that. That was, I think the Magic Child was actually came into fruition sometime in the 60s and lasted through, I want to say, the late 80s, possibly mid 90s.
Are we talking the Satanic Bible, or are we talking about the Necronomicon?
Necronomicon.
Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the gentleman's... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brian.
But yeah, the gentleman, I think he was, I don't know if he was actually the founder of the Magic Child, but yeah, I think he had it. I can't remember. I just looked it up, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. But the Magic Child, I want to say, went out of business sometime between the mid 80s to mid 90s. Actually went out of business then. But yeah, he used to deal in all this. I mean, any piece that you basically wanted, not only in literature, but in actual, say you wanted a lapis lazuli rod, he could get it for you.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So he dealt with all manner of tools and literature when it came to the arcane.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me that with everything he had at his disposal, because back then, in the 60s, all you could do was get your information from other books. So I mean, if he had really old books from all walks of life and from all time periods, he very easily could have cobbled something together, very easily.
Oh, yes, and there's no saying that what's in that particular book is incorrect.
Right.
As far as what there is and what goes on there, there's nothing saying that it's incorrect. I don't know of anybody that actually tried to do one of the spells or one of the incantations or anything.
I don't either, really. It's Allison made a good point. Yeah, it's sounds like the history of the solar system. Maybe he accidentally took some stuff from Sitchin or took some stuff from ancient Samaria and slapped it in there and didn't even realize what he was doing.
Oh, with Tiamat.
Yeah, and Cole and some of the elder gods he was talking about.
Enki, Enlil, yeah, I'd have to, yeah.
I'm gonna, I still got that buried somewhere. It's not in the greatest condition. I used to keep it in the boot of my car, but I'm gonna have to re-go through that and do a little study on it.
Look at it this way: if you can read it, it works.
Yep, that's right. Absolutely.
But I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick. I was just gonna say less. I was just gonna say less of if you do, can find that, definitely,
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, keep us posted. And again, you guys are always welcome on the show. So it doesn't matter who's on or what we're doing. Just come on into the hangouts and talk about like the Necronomicon or anything else, Rick.
Yeah, thanks. Definitely, I'm having a blast. Thank you guys very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we've jumped around tonight, haven't we? Started on Bigfoot, went to we actually went over everything we wanted to go over tonight, didn't we?
Yeah. In fact, you know what? With Bigfoot stealing tools, that could be where our socks are going too.
That's a great point, man.
You never know, man.
Was I telling you, Brian, that I or maybe it was Rita, that when I went in Florida, when I used to go out in the woods, I found actually a big pile of left socks one time. No joke. Man. I'm not kidding.
No, but you know what? Going back to the little spirits thing, are you guys familiar with? It's a legend from Ireland, the red caps. Do you guys know what red caps are?
Yes, I've heard.
Yeah, basically they're dwarves that dip their caps in their victim's blood, and that's why they're red. And have you ever noticed that? What do you think of when somebody says gnome or like a garden gnome? What color is the hat usually?
Usually red.
Uh-huh. And what's interesting is lately there seems to be more and more sightings of gnomes, of all things, gnomes. Now, I don't know if they're hoaxes or not. When I come across them, the footage looks questionable. And because I'm still moving into the new house, I don't have all my computer stuff set up. But yeah, something for everybody who's listening, all you Beyonders out there, think about that and look into it. Remember, gnomes tend to usually have red hats. Even the cartoon David the Gnome, he had a red hat.
Yeah.
And then you have the legends of the red caps.
Dan was just saying he used to shop the Magical Child almost every week, and it must have closed in the 90s because it was still there before he left California in '89. So, hi Dan.
Hey,
What up,
Dan.
Dan, spiritual warrior.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually have on Gaiam TV. They have a 45-minute thing about looking for the child, looking for the spirits of the forest spirits of the Moai. Really interesting if you ever get a chance to look, if you have Gaiam and want to just, have 45 minutes to kill. They actually get a shot of quite possibly one in the footage. Really interesting.
Well, there
I'll have to
was
hunt that down.
recently there was recently a YouTube video. I think Rick might have seen it. Going back to gnomes, I don't know if you saw it, Rick, or if anybody else seen this, but it was like a 3-minute video where I don't know where it was, either like a Central American or
All the kids in like the abandoned house or whatever.
no, it was in the streets.
Oh, okay.
There were, it was literally in the streets where you saw a bunch of people just start running from like out of an alley, and it was a really small figure, kind of like a gnome, chasing them. And then of course the camera is going all the way around. But I would rule out CG because it looked like a little person or a little thing. It was really strange.
Are you talking about the one that like goes sideways? It's like, in kind of like in the darkness, and it moves sideways in front of a group of guys, and they all flip out.
Yeah. It was
Oh man,
dark.
that gave me the chills, man.
Yeah.
That
Hey,
was
if
flipping creepy.
if either one of you guys can find that, shoot me that link because I'd like to check that out.
Definitely.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
also there have been a lot of reports of basically like wee folk in like the Arizona desert. Yeah, and they look like little like one and a half foot Native Americans. Yeah, and yeah, they're gnarly, mean little critters too, and they're prone to stealing tools, just like you hear from all the other wee folk from around the world.
If you ever start feeding them, don't ever stop, because if you do, you're in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, well, that's why I have a dog, man. If I drop something on the floor, he eats it. I don't have to worry about it. No accidents.
Let me pass this back.
Right.
Let me pass this across you guys here for a second. Okay, so we're talking about wee folk and we're talking about elementals. And we've been doing nothing but screwing up this planet from almost day one. And a lot more recently. Maybe, and this is just speculation again out there, maybe they're fighting back.
That's a very good point. Because if you think about it, and I saw this when I lived in Las Vegas, is they're building out and out and out throughout the valley. And you start getting into, into the mountains and the hills and everything where you have, large cats, cougars and stuff like that. If you have a housing development way on the outskirts, you're encroaching on their territory. Next thing you know, your little Pomeranian just got eaten by a mountain lion. And so it very well could be the main thing, or the same thing. Here you're encroaching on their territory, so I mean, where else do they really have to go? And so, unlike a natural animal, they can fight back.
Yep, that's true. Well, we can go over a little bit, you guys. or we can end right now. But I was gonna just say, you guys
just
got anything to
posted the
shout
video.
out before? There you go. Yeah, a lot of people are asking for it. Rick, you got anything you want to shout out to? Anything you want to plug or anything?
Just a big thank you to everybody. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Les, for having me on. Thank you to all the Beyonders and the Fadernauts that are out there listening. And thank you to Jimmy Church and Rita Camurian for bringing all of us together. If it wasn't for Fade to Black, we probably would have never met. So
Yeah, no.
big thank you and continued success to Jimmy and Rita. Big time thank you.
Absolutely. They actually inspired me to do this project, and you know what? It's a work in progress, but it's fun, And Brian, oh my God, Brian, you're amazing. So I appreciate everything.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank you, gentlemen, for being on tonight. And please come back anytime.
Yes, Les.
Don't tell me that. I'll probably do it. I'll
Well,
be
we'll
like the
be
bad
here.
rash you can't get rid of.
That's all good, man. It's
Cool.
all
Love
good.
the Beyonders. Love the Fadernauts. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys. Thanks again.
Yeah, good night. And good night, Brian. We'll be back next week. I want to thank everyone, all the Beyonders. Awesome. God, Rick, that was awesome. That was just so slick. And I want to thank Alan Hall for the bumper music. And that's it. And you guys have a good night.